Okay, hello, my name is Amaraizu, and the first picture here is Justice After Genocide, Rwandan Canadian Community Activism. The strength of community. Seeking justice after the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda examines these community-led initiatives for justice. Along with Page Rwanda, the Canadian Museum of Human Rights produced this original documentary. It includes first-person accounts from participants in various mobilizations in the Rwandan Canadian community. This group experienced setbacks, difficulties, and victories in their fight for justice. This gave the locals hope that they could seek justice even in places far from the site of the genocide. These initiatives demonstrate the strength of a community when its members band together in the wake of violence, refuse to remain silent, and promote human rights. This relates to our core concepts of social justice. We see how this group of people were discriminated, killed, and stripped of their human rights just because of their tribe. The next picture is us versus them, the process of ordering. In this picture, we see German soldiers rounding up Jewish prisoners at gunpoint during the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising in 1943. The Nazi Party classified individuals into two groups: Aryans, or the Germanic people, whom they believed to be genetically superior, and inferior races, which included Jews, slaves, Roma and Sinti, and Black people. This categorization of some tribes as lesser than was an act of ordering that contributed to the conditions that led to the genocide. They are stripped of all their rights, their identity is destroyed, and equality is not upheld by this slaughter. We observe how they are denied social justice and personhood, two concepts we explored this semester. This picture is the story of Black slavery in Canadian history. The chain in the above image, which can be seen in the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, is an example of the chain used to bind Black slaves. Until now, the slave trade that the European brought to North America was different. Many Europeans viewed slaves as merely valuable commodities to be purchased and traded. This chattel slavery was an oppressive, brutal, and demeaning society. Crucially, Europeans had a racist perspective of slavery. African and indigenous people were viewed as inferior to humans. For hundreds of years, this white dominance justified the cruelty of slavery. Millions of people endured unspeakable misery because of the slave trade. Also, it gave rise to racist prejudice and stereotypes that are still prevalent in Canadian culture nearly 200 years after slavery was abolished. This issue relates to the subject of racism from our course. Okay. The next picture is a beach resort rejects the unwanted. Did you know that in the not too distant past, Jewish people living in Canada were discouraged from visiting certain vacation spots or from purchasing or renting vacation properties? The exclusive nature of Victoria Beach extended beyond a focus on class or status to include ethnicity and culture. Simply put, Jewish people were not welcome. These discriminatory attitudes were not kept hidden. This religion discrimination infringes on their right to roam. This relates to our core concept of discrimination. Let me go to the next slide. Sleeping car porters. The picture shows Black sleeping car porters. Workers in Canada are entitled to a diverse range of human rights in the workplace, yet many times these rights have been denied. Due to racism, Black men in Canada had few work prospects in the early 1990s. The Canadian Railways hired many as sleeping car porters. They provided for the comfort of overnight travelers, while they provided for the comfort of overnight travelers. While this profession required consistent effort and travel, it was also demanding and demeaning. Porters put in a lot of overtime, had no job security, and were expected to behave submissively. They encountered racism from passengers and were excluded from other railway professions. The porters joined the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters in 1942, determined to better their working condition. We see how they were deprived of their personhood, and this problem relates to the course concept of racial discrimination from our course. Thank you. Sorry, we can't hear you, Andie.
Sorry. So the first question we answered was, what is the specific strategy that nurses can use to advocate for equitable care and or justice related to the issue? And we said that speaking up when a concern arises is a key response and action when advocating for equity within the healthcare system. This creates progress towards achieving equality for both patients and the healthcare staff. It's important to stand ground when speaking out about equality issues in order to ensure that your voice is heard and that the right actions are being taken. We'll back up here. So the second question that we answered was, what would be a health promotion action, introduction, or strengthening of a healthy public policy that might promote optimal health outcomes for people experiencing this social justice issue? And we said that Canada is still a long way from achieving equal healthcare opportunities. However, some ideas in order to reach said fairness could include creating a safe and supportive environment for all populations / communities to receive healthcare in, or working towards expansion of healthcare services in rural areas of developing countries, or normalizing harm reduction and their support resources, or normalizing sexual and reproductive healthcare and their support resources, or the expansion and promotion of women's reproductive healthcare services, which also falls under the category of women's human rights. So in closing of our presentation, we as healthcare professionals and as future nurses must be able to identify the importance of the relationship between Canadian human rights and the healthcare system. Although broken in some areas, it is our role as caregivers to step up and step in when we recognize violations of human rights towards both staff and patients / clients and residents. That is why being educated and understanding Canadian human rights is so important. This is done to ensure that the Canadian healthcare system is capable of providing the best, safest patient care possible. Thank you for listening to our presentation. Here is our references.